Hi, and thank you for coming today. I'd like to talk about Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo in Spanish literally means the 5th of May. You might say to yourself, I remember hearing about that day, and I know a lot of people go to the bars and there's a lot of partying going on, and so maybe some good Mexican food. But the question is do you know why it's celebrated? Many think that it's Mexican Independence Day, but it's not. Mexico actually declared independence from Spain, and that was September 15th. At midnight, believe it or not, in 1810. Today I'm going to share with you the reason why Cinco de Mayo is so important in the United States and why we have big celebrations. I'll begin to enlighten you with a little history dating back to war facts back in the late 1840s. You'll learn about key countries and players involved in the battles for land along with the rationale as to why there was fighting, and I'll wrap it up by why we as Americans celebrate Cinco de Mayo. First, let me begin by taking you back in history so the full importance makes sense. Mexico has a long history of invasions and brutal conquerors, all seeking the riches of the fertile Mexican plains, the golds, the silvers, along with sugars. Actually, they were the largest producer of the finest sugars back in that time, and it was exported to Europe to help make the fine pastries. In 1848, the U.S. defeated Mexico in the Mexican-American War, and Santa Anna was forced into exile as he lost a great deal of Mexico back to the U.S. At that time in history, the area stretched from the south, where it currently is part of Texas, New Mexico, and all the way to California. I'll now provide you with a little insight about who continued battling and why. A new president took power during this period of time with a reformist cabinet that included a man named Benito Juarez. The new government was very liberal, and they made sweeping changes which regarded freedom of speech, universal male suffrage, as well as curtailing the power of the Catholic Church. And think about back in that time, the power that the Catholic Church had. At that time, then, a major civil war broke out in Mexico because the conservatives opposed this and all the reforms. In 1861, Benito Juarez ran for president and won by one vote. His first act as president was actually to suspend all the payments to foreign governments, which included France, Great Britain, and Spain. All decided to send forces to Mexico to protect their investments. As they landed in Veracruz, so they eventually Spain and Great Britain decided to pull away from the battle as they were able to negotiate future payments and protect some of their investment. France refused to negotiate this, though. They remained in Mexico, and at that time in history, France was actually considered the military power, even over the United States. They were the military superpower. France planned on staying in Mexico, and what they wanted to do was prevent the United States from any further west. And that previous map showed that they had Texas, New Mexico, and part of actually California, which is what Santa Anna lost, and the French actually wanted to get that area back also. As the French army moved west, and actually when they came into Veracruz, all of them came here, they decided to go to the capital city of Mexico City. And as they were going there was a Texas-born Mexican named Zaragoza in a small town of Pueblo, which is here. And he actually dropped in from the border of Texas along with the Mexican army, and they had a huge fight there. And for that period of time, considering the French army was considered the superpower, this small militia actually beat France and pushed them all the way back to the coast. This was a huge win for the Mexican army. And this occurred on May 5th, 1862. So what is actually the importance? This is also a picture of Zaragoza. He was a Mexican-born hero that actually was part of the Mexican army. But the key point for the United States is that when the Mexican army defeated, and this was like Napoleon III that came over with French, they intercepted weapons and ammunition that were intended for the Confederate Army, and that's when the Civil War was going on. Had France succeeded in conquering Mexico and from getting those needed supplies to the Confederate Army, that would have been severely impacting on that war, and things as we know it may have been very different if the Confederate Army had more weapons and and greater power. And actually right now, if you think about it, with the fact that the French were there, we might actually be speaking French right now instead of English in the majority of the United States. So Cinco de Mayo is a major celebration in Puebla, which I showed you on the map, and the United States. It's considered an American Civil War holiday and celebrates Mexican heritage and pride, but is not readily considered a holiday or celebration in other parts of Mexico. So now when you are out partying on Cinco de Mayo, which is May 5th, it's not because of Mexican Independence Day. It's because we were successful in not speaking French. So thank you for your time.